Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Less Known Classics. This is episode number 2720 and Doubleshot number 2614. I have two side-related trades. First up we have is Showcase Presents Martian Manhunter Volume 2. The final Showcase book for him. And this was not ended because the Showcase not ended. This was the last one they released. If you're curious, did they stop producing the Showcase Martian Manhunter books because of low sales, or was it because they ran out of solo stories for him? Not really, no. Because at the time when this feature ended in the second book, I'll talk about in this collection here, DC kind of retired. He basically was most featuring Justice League America at this point. So I guess DC felt as though that they didn't necessarily need to feature him very much, just feature mostly in Justice League. And at one point, they decided to just retire the character for about 10 years, bring him back for Venture Comics, and eventually become full-time again. So mostly put in the case of the issues collected here, this is basically his run from Detective Comics number 305 to 326, and House of Mystery number 143 to 173. Now, I just want some interesting note about Detective Comics issues. Yes, of course, it's the Batman book, obviously, but he was a backup feature in that book. So each story is roughly about 8 maybe 10 pages apiece. It's him mostly battling criminals, occasionally battling aliens. Like one point basically that, by the way, in his last story feature is called Death of John Jones. Basically, in a way, the reason why that in the story they decided to have, because John Jones, basically the name John Jones, even though it's pronounced John Jones, it's his alternate spelling. Basically, when they ended this feature in the comics, they ended they killed off his human guys, which you bring back in the 80s. Yeah, that's mostly put exactly, and the main reason why, because they moved him over to House Mystery. I'll get to that. But sadly put, about the 7-issue marker here, we're introduced to this alien sidekick known as Zoink. Yes, Martian Manhunter has a comedic alien sidekick. I'm not sure why he was featured for, but he was. He was featured from this point forward for the rest of the comics, and he was featured in all the stories for House Mystery, and then he disappeared and was not seen again until Superman Batman. Yep. But I do enjoy his stuff in Detective. It's something, though, that his final issue of Detective Comics is exactly almost 100 issues just after his debut appearance, which was in 225. That was his debut. This is his end. Actually, more 326. I think it was 226 was his debut. This is exactly 101 issues later that we sent in his feature. My guess is because DC probably felt as though that maybe we need to switch it up, give basically the comics do fresh paint. Because Martian had been there at this point probably about a decade. So I guess DC felt as though, yeah, probably do a different book now because people like this character. So he was made the primary feature in House of Mystery for about half the time he was in the book because, he came in with 143, and it was a full 20-page story. That didn't last very long. That lasted for a small handful of issues. Like I said, it came in with 143. Mostly put his feature in 10-page stories. Mostly put exactly that's what he was doing here. Yep, and then I think it was started with, first it was 10-page stories, and then, they basically increased it a little bit briefly, and then, toward the end of the run, it basically went back to the 8-page format. Now, the reason why this was because they introduced Dial H. Yes. Those of you thinking, what the heck is Dial H? Dial H is mostly, from what I know about this thing, it is mostly this kid named Robbie Reed, who, by the way, made his debut in issue 156. His whole thing is that he basically spins a dial, and he becomes a superhero for one issue. That's kind of the premise of the guy. And here is a little fun fact about basically a Dial H book. Like, in this book anyways. Yeah, so basically there is technically one collective story for the original version of Dial H. Yeah, why only this one? I don't know, but they did pretty much collect all his entire feature. Because why was feature stop 173? Because book got status quo changed again to a horror book. Yep. That's kind of what basically that they did with the book. Yeah, it was briefly superhero. Yeah. Because originally it was a horror book and then basically became superhero for about a few years and then basically went back to being horror again because it changed the comic authority. Yes. Yeah. Now, if you're curious, is this era in trade for House of Mystery? Yeah, is this era for House of Mystery in trade? Yes, it is, but they stop with 226. It does not collect the whole entire feature. No, they don't. Basically, the book itself ended with issue number 321. But DC has never finished collecting this run. It has not. I don't really know exactly the reason for it, but that's kind of basically what it is. But I enjoy this, what it is. Also, toward the end of House of Mystery. Basically, House of Mystery is like back to sort of sci-fi stuff with Martian Manhunter. And then it becomes a spy book where he has to take this organization with Vulture. Which, of course, he finds out that the Mr. V, the guy in charge of the organization, is somebody who hired him for the job to basically eliminate the Vulture. But the book ends sort of a weird note, like, okay, the guy's beaten, and that's it. Yeah, and that's the sad thing about the Martian Manhunter book. It's like, as soon as basically the feature ends, it's like, yeah, the Vulture first opened issue 160. Basically, during the last year of the book, he was taking out the guy. Mostly put, he had, left Earth, and he came back briefly in the 70s. But yeah, I guess DC just want to move on from Martian Manhunter, possibly, but great book overall. If you're a fan of Martian Manhunter, check this book out because this book is so good. And check out the first book. I actually own the first book. Give this book a 10 out of 10. And with that done, basically, here's the thing of Martian Manhunter. Did you know that aside from this run of Martian Manhunter, the only other runs in trade is volume 2 is mostly in trade, but not the entirety of it per se. Yeah, they collect the first 17 out of 36 issues. They collect most of the book. Volume 3 is in trade. I know volume 4, and so is volume 5. So still got a bit to go. Volume 1 is the only one not in trade, and there's no reason for it. I do not know the reason for this. It's weird. Okay, so next up we have is Manowar Death Hand. This collects from Manowar Volume 3 issues 33-37. Basically, kind of in a way, it's like a story I came across. I basically was coming out when I was reading it. And also, this is the sadly put the fifth to last trade to collect issues from this run. Yeah, there's technically 4 more left. There's volumes 10, which I have here. And after that, we have 3 more, and that's it. It's a relatively very quick storyline here. It's roughly 5 issues, where basically Arco basically says goodbye to everybody who goes to space. Basically, also the after effects of Armor Wars. And then, of course, meets up with Depp's Hand. Depp's Hand is this planet-like being who is basically Robert Denny decided to make him this world, this universe version of the Death Star. Because he tries to eviscerate the moon. And, of course, the book ends on a very good note by having Exo with a bunch of people in the armor suits and basically, like, pieces of the Exo Manowar armor fighting against Death's Hand. This book is amazing. Venditti himself, Robert D. does a fantastic job with this book with Rafael Salvador issue 33, 34 to 37 is Diego Bernard. Yep. Those are your artists for the interior artists. The cover art for issue 33 is Margaret Savage. And for basically issues 34 and 35 is Luis LaRosa with Brian Ruber. For issue 36, it's Rafael Salvador, who is he's the cover artist here, with Jordi Gardia and David Garcia Cruz. The final issue, 37, is Steven Savoia and Dave Barron. Yep. Oh, in the case of John Turger, he was the inker for issue number 33. David Cruz was the colorist. Yeah, I find it kind of weird though that the inker colorist did 33 to the cover for issue 36. But we also explore a little bit Ark's past when he was still, basically what they're doing with the Romans. But great book overall. I give this book a 10 out of 10. Really good. Yeah, just overall really fun book. Continuing basically a good trend for me. Now, I was lucky to find this book when I went to Free Comic Day this past Saturday. These two books, I was so lucky to find it because I really was hoping to find it because I went to the store last year. I managed to find a couple of volumes of X-Men of War. And I'm glad that now this run I still really enjoy. Venditti himself, I've spoken about this run. It is technically the way the first comic he ever wrote. And by far one of his most long, because according to him, he did this book, he started this book a few months before he started Green Lantern. What's first issue release for that was issue 21. This is not issue 1. And this book now, he did like 4 years of this book. It is even he agrees, the longest book under the current Valiant company. Yes, Valiant Entertainment. But great book overall. Okay, so that's pretty much a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do not hit the dislike button. Next up, I have a comic corner later. Plus, of course, hopefully I get a chance to do the Bedtime Crisis Slime. Okay, next video. Bye.